everybody. This is Amy Waninger from Lead at Any Level. I'm here to talk to you about how behaviors change during times of stress, change, and uncertainty, because we've already talked about feelings. If you've been watching the series, you know that feelings are big, important when we're dealing with change and stress and that sort of thing. But I want to talk today about behaviors. And so we're going to talk about some common behavior changes you might see. I'm going to share with you just some stories from my own experience around this. And I'm going to admit to some things that I really don't think make me look very good, but that's okay. If it helps you, it helps, and it's worth it. So I want you to go through this video 3 times, and I'll tell you why at the end. But first, let's talk about behaviors and behavioral changes you've noticed. Now, I forgot to tell you, because I don't script these, that I am working from my book. It's a workbook, Moving from Panic to Purpose, Companion Workbook, a step-by-step guide to managing change in your career. This is available on Amazon. It's also available on Kindle, even though I think Kindle is a horrible, horrible way to release an ebook, or to release a book, a workbook especially. But because of delivery delays and people not wanting to touch things and all of that, I decided to go ahead and release a Kindle version. So if you want it immediately, you are welcome to go get it. The Kindle version's on sale for $2.99 right now on Amazon, or from my website, shop.leadatanylevel.com. You can get this book. It's normally $27. It's part of a program that I sell to corporations, but you can get it right now for $9.99. So if you're interested, check that out, but it's not necessary. I'm going to walk you through the whole book in this series. So let's go. All right, today we're talking about behaviors. What behavior or behavioral changes have you noticed in yourself as a result of this change? Now, remember, I'm talking right now about the COVID-19 pandemic, because that's what's going on while I'm recording this. And it's a shared experience for people around the world, although we're not all experiencing it the same. But that's a whole other conversation. But let's talk about some changes in behaviors that you may have noticed in yourself. Different body language, asking more questions, arguing more, bringing up the past, relating to others, self-sabotage, jumping in to help, making lists or making plans, crying, manipulating others, sabotaging others, learning, conducting research, talking it out, telling personal stories, being quieter than usual, opting out or withdrawing from activities, consulting experts, comparing and contrasting, or spreading rumors. Now, if any of those jumped out at you, write them down. Now, the reason this is important is because other people can't see our feelings, but they can see our behaviors. And we can control, not necessarily control our feelings, but we can control our behaviors. And as we know from research from Amy Cuddy and others, we can actually behave ourselves into different feelings. So this is really important to not confuse the two, right? Because you can't necessarily control your feelings right away, but you can control your behaviors. And by controlling your behaviors, you can change your feelings. Now, I want you to go through that list again, this time not thinking about what changes have you noticed in yourself, but what changes have other people maybe noticed in you. And then I want you to go through it a 3rd time. And the reason I want you to go through it a 3rd time, maybe more, is because I want you to think about what changes are you noticing in the people around you. So if you are in a work group, for example, and you're all working remotely for the first time, what changes are you noticing in your coworkers, in their behaviors? What changes are you noticing? If you're lucky enough, hopefully lucky, to be sequestered with your family right now, what changes are you noticing in your partner, in your roommates, in your children, in your parents? Because you can start to think about what feelings might be driving those behaviors. Now, I want to give you a couple of examples real quick, because I promised you stories. You're going to get stories. The first one is self-sabotage. So now this is one that we really don't like to admit to, because everybody thinks, hey, we're all going to do the best we can for ourselves. But I'm going to tell you a story. So not really a story, but I'm going to admit something to you that I don't really want to admit. So I have a history of clinical depression that has run, I mean, my whole life, back to like when I was 7 years old. And for those of you who know how old I am, that is a long, long time. And sometimes when I get upset, when I get overstressed, when I get anxious, I engage in self-sabotaging behaviors. And so just this week, it's Monday, but I was noticing from last week that I was procrastinating more. I am working through this just like everybody else, and I have good days and bad. Another thing I want to talk to you about is people who manipulate others. And this is something to watch out for if you are one of these people that might do this, that you might have a propensity to do this, or if you work or live with someone who has manipulative tendencies. Now, I try really hard not to be this way, but I've had plenty of these people in my life. What I've noticed is when things feel out of control, people who are naturally manipulators will go into overdrive with that behavior because it gives them something to control. The goal usually of manipulators is wanting to control something. And instead of controlling themselves, they control other people. So I want you to be very, very careful about establishing boundaries right now, especially if you are in any kind of relationship that has a history of manipulation or abuse, because there are certainly, in stressful times, those activities and those behaviors ramp up. The other thing I want you to be very careful of is spreading rumors right now. There's a lot of misinformation about the COVID-19 virus, about the pandemic response, about what's being done, about government assistance that is or is not available. Please get your information from reliable sources. Only share on social media what you know for a fact to be true and from a reliable source. And by reliable source, I mean policies that are already in place, not ones that are being discussed. News organizations that have a long history of bipartisan influence, and that provide enough context for people to understand what's going on. Not necessarily those news outlets or sources that agree with your feelings, right? Facts matter right now, especially. Not having good facts is potentially deadly to people. Then I want you to think about, so after all of that, after you think about how these behaviors might be different in you and how others may be seeing your behaviors differently, how you may be seeing different behaviors in others. So we're on step 3 now. Step 3. Step 4 is, how do you feel about the feelings and the behaviors you've identified so far? Now, if you are happy with the way things are going, you feel really good about how you're responding to this, that's great. But if you do not, if you're not happy with your response, right now is the time to make a change. You can't change what you did 5 minutes ago. You can't change what you did last week. But right now you can make a decision to have a better response 5 minutes from now, tomorrow, next week, better attitude with your family at dinner tonight, whatever it is. And you can only control what's happening right now, and you can only control so much, mostly your response. So I want you to be careful. Also, this is just a little caveat. Some people may behave differently, but it doesn't necessarily lead back to the same feelings. So some people may be formulating plans and getting ready and, really like focused in, right? And that's their way of coping with stress. It doesn't mean that they are frantic or panicked, right? Some people only make plans when they're panicked. Some people make plans to prevent panic. Some people get quiet because they don't want to say the wrong thing. Other people get quiet because they don't want their negative attitude to impact other people. Some people get quiet because they figure if they don't know what to say, it's best not to say anything at all. And some people are just lost in their own thoughts right now. So don't assume someone else's change in behavior means that they're not coping well or that they are coping well. Reach out to the people if you notice a change in behavior. Ask, hey, how are you doing? I just want to make sure you're doing okay. Is there anything I can do to help? Now is a great time to not only take care of yourself, but to reach out to some other people. If this program is valuable to you, if this conversation is valuable, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If this is on YouTube, it should be down there somewhere, or in the comments on LinkedIn or Facebook. But I'm going to be going through this workbook a little bit every day just for you guys to try to get my head right, but also to help some other folks along the way.